Hey guys, this is Marcus with Push Square, and as you may have heard, the end of Sony's fiscal year is upon us this month, and that means that physical PlayStation Vita titles are going to be discontinued this month. And now it's only a matter of time before the production of the console itself is discontinued worldwide as well. Because of this, I thought we could take a moment to look back on this handheld's library of games, the trials and tribulations it faced. As well, I want to give a brief preview into the purely digital future still in store for the rest of the year for the PlayStation Vita. Since it launched in late 2011 and early 2012, the Vita has had some very moderate sales in Japan and Europe, but it's been completely dead in the water in North America right from the get-go. The PlayStation Vita was plagued by really poor marketing, the flourishing mobile games industry, and its pricey hardware. When you take the savagely priced proprietary memory cards into consideration, the Vita cost more than a PS3 when it came out. The handheld console quickly lost major AAA support from both third parties and Sony itself after the first year. This led to the widespread misunderstanding that the Vita had no games. However, you guys probably know that this was not the truth, especially if you had one yourself. And so the Vita continued to thrive solely on fast-paced indie games and dense RPGs, and it became something of a cult classic for the rest of its life cycle. The Vita community coined themselves Vita Island because they were a stunted player base eating up any and every kind of game they could get on their platform. The Vita's digital sales always did really well, and it was often cited as one of the best platforms for indie games, all the way up until the Switch came out in 2017. And one more thing that I just wanted to touch on is the PlayStation TV, which was a really bizarre product that came out in 2013 in Japan and then 2014 in the West. And despite the lack of support and sales for the initial Vita handheld, Sony decided to create this really weird product. I think it was a way for Sony to get rid of leftover hardware after the PS Vita Slim continued to flop for the year prior. But anyway, to get back on track, the PlayStation TV was a micro console with HDMI output for plugging into your TV, which on paper sounded like a really amazing idea, as it would allow for remote play, local couch multiplayer, and up-resing Vita games. But Sony really messed up the accessibility of these features. By default, all Vita games were blocked, and from what I understand, based on the modding community for this system, is that it was a really simple process of Sony blocking all the games, and developers had to go in and update their games to get off of the block list. But it required the developers to go in and update their Vita games nonetheless, which was just not going to happen. And to clarify, this is 2 years into the Vita's life cycle, when its failures and fate were very clear, when support was already extremely lacking. So Sony created this borderline useless microconsole that didn't even have Netflix support to compete against the rise of TV smart devices at the time, like Chromecast and Fire Stick. Again, this system had a little bit more success in Japan, but in the West it really struggled, and it was discontinued in about a year. I myself managed to grab a PlayStation TV while it was new a few years ago, with a DualShock 3 and a game for $50 Canadian, which was really cheap considering it was a newish product. And while it does have some really great features, the limitations of an unmodded PlayStation TV just come out really quickly, and they're just really painful. Overall, I'm sure many of you would agree with me in saying that we wish the Vita had a much better reception. It was a really strong piece of hardware, but the technical support was never quite there, and it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation, but it's really quite a disappointment because there was so much potential. So fast forward, and now we're here in March 2019. Last month was the final month of PlayStation Vita support in the PlayStation Plus subscriptions. So this month we're not getting anything. So I thought we could take a look at any upcoming games for the system. And yeah, it's pretty much dead. Anyways, if there's any members of Vita Island out there, what's your take on the console? Feel free to share your experience with the Vita, or press F to pay respects in the comments. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Push Square for more PlayStation content. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.